Introduction. How to force your brain to crave doing hard things. The hardest path leads to the greatest growth. Why do the greatest achievements in life often lie on the other side of the hardest things we'll ever do? What is it about challenges that push us away? And yet, when we conquer them, they reward us with an indescribable sense of triumph and transformation. Most people at some point face this inner conflict. The knowledge that greatness lies in embracing hard things, yet the overwhelming pull to stay in the comfort zone. The truth is, our brains are wired to seek pleasure and avoid pain. This is not just a weakness. It's an evolutionary trait that kept our ancestors alive. But in the modern world, it's become the very thing that holds us back. Think about the last time you avoided something hard, whether it was a difficult conversation, a demanding task, or a challenging goal. What stopped you? Chances are, it was the brain's resistance. It whispered, "You don't need to do this now," or "It's too hard. Why bother?" This is where most people stop. They back down from hard things because their minds tell them it's too uncomfortable. But what if I told you there's a way to flip the switch? What if you could force your brain to crave doing hard things, to find joy in discomfort, and to see challenges not as threats, but as opportunities for profound personal growth? The science of resistance. Your brain's resistance to hard things isn't just laziness. It's deeply rooted in how the brain operates. The brain has a powerful reward system designed to keep you safe and content. It's the reason you feel good after a tasty meal or feel relaxed watching TV. But here's the problem. In today's world, the brain's wiring is out of sync with the demands of modern life. The brain loves what's familiar. It craves routines, predictability, and instant gratification. This is why many people get stuck in cycles of procrastination, avoidance, and low-level satisfaction. They never push themselves to reach for the greater rewards because their brains are wired to favor comfort over challenge. But if we dive deeper into the mechanics of how the brain works, we can begin to understand how to hack this system. Spiritual insight, growth through hardship. But there's another side to this story, one that's deeply spiritual. Hard things aren't just physical or mental obstacles. They're also spiritual tests. Many ancient texts, including the Bible, talk about the power of adversity. James 1 verses 2-4 says, "Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything." What this means is that the hard things in life are not meant to destroy us. They're meant to shape us. They're divine tools of growth, used to refine our character, sharpen our minds, and strengthen our faith. Every hardship is a lesson. Every challenge a step closer to becoming the best version of ourselves. Introduction. Continued. How to force your brain to crave doing hard things. The struggle between comfort and growth. It's easy to stay comfortable. Most of us have fallen into the trap of the familiar. Whether it's staying in a safe job, maintaining easy relationships, or avoiding personal growth challenges that seem too overwhelming. But deep down, we know that comfort is not where greatness lives. Growth, achievement, and self-transformation are birthed in the very discomfort we avoid. There's a quote that says, "Everything you've ever wanted is on the other side of fear." Fear, however, is just one of the many emotions we feel when we encounter something hard. We also feel doubt, frustration, and sometimes even hopelessness. Our brains are quick to tell us that this path isn't worth it. Why bother? You could be doing something easy right now. You could be relaxing. But consider this. What if your brain could be trained to see hard things differently? What if you could condition yourself to experience a sense of excitement, anticipation, and joy when faced with a challenge instead of dread? Why the brain favors comfort. Your brain's primary job is to keep you safe. For millions of years, this meant keeping you alive, away from danger, predators, or any situation that could harm you. This survival instinct is hardwired into the most primitive parts of the brain, sometimes referred to as the lizard brain, or more technically, the amygdala. The amygdala is responsible for processing emotions, especially fear. When you encounter something difficult or challenging, the amygdala triggers a fear response, telling you to flee, avoid, or resist. This worked well when humans were facing physical threats like wild animals, But in the modern world, it backfires. Now, it's not predators you're fleeing from. It's your own potential. It's the uncomfortable but necessary growth that comes from doing hard things. The dopamine system also plays a significant role. Dopamine is the neurotransmitter responsible for pleasure and reward. When you do something that brings immediate gratification, like eating your favorite food, watching your favorite show, or scrolling through social media, dopamine surges. This makes your brain crave more of those activities, reinforcing a cycle of comfort and easy rewards. But here's the key. Dopamine can also be rewired. With intentional effort, you can train your brain to associate hard things with reward, and crave the fulfillment that comes after completing them. Spiritual insight. Divine growth through challenges. From a spiritual standpoint, the avoidance of hard things is not just a matter of comfort, it's a matter of purpose. Many people struggle with purpose because they're unwilling to push through the trials and tests that come with growth. The Bible, in many places, speaks about the necessity of trials in developing character and spiritual maturity. Consider these words from Romans 5 verses 3 to 4. Not only so, but we also glory in our sufferings, because we know that suffering produces perseverance. Perseverance, character, and character, hope. The message here is profound. Suffering and challenges are not obstacles to avoid but tools in the hands of God to refine us into who we are meant to be. Without adversity, we remain stagnant, never reaching our full potential. We must shift our perspective to see hard things as divine opportunities. Just as gold is refined by fire, our spirits and minds are shaped by the trials we face. And when we endure, we come out stronger, more resilient, and more connected to our divine purpose. The promise of transformation. Here's the good news: you're not stuck. Just because your brain naturally favors comfort doesn't mean you have to remain in the cycle of avoidance. With intentionality, practice, and a combination of spiritual wisdom and scientific techniques, you can rewire your brain to embrace and even crave hard things. Imagine waking up in the morning excited to tackle your toughest challenges. Imagine looking at difficult tasks with anticipation, knowing that the discomfort is temporary, but the growth is eternal. This is not just wishful thinking. It's a reality that many people have achieved through mental conditioning and spiritual alignment. The promise of transformation is real, but it requires a shift in how we approach discomfort. Instead of seeing hard things as something to avoid, we must begin to see them as opportunities to unlock our highest potential. This is where neuroscience meets spiritual revelation, and together, they offer the tools we need to change our minds, our spirits, and our lives. Understanding the brain's resistance to difficulty. To change the way we approach hard things, we must first understand why our brains resist them in the first place. The brain is an incredible organ, but it's also hardwired to prioritize short-term comfort over long-term growth. In this section, we'll explore the neuroscience behind why our brains resist doing hard things and how we can begin to overcome this resistance. Neuroscience of comfort versus challenge. As mentioned earlier, the brain is built for survival. Its primary concern is keeping you safe, comfortable, and alive. This is why it rewards activities that are easy and pleasurable, like eating, sleeping, or relaxing. When you engage in these activities, your brain releases dopamine, a neurotransmitter that creates feelings of pleasure and satisfaction. Over time, your brain begins to associate these easy activities with positive outcomes, making you want to repeat them. But here's where the brain's natural tendencies become problematic. The same dopamine system that rewards easy pleasures also discourages difficult tasks. When faced with a challenge, your brain triggers the release of cortisol, the stress hormone. This makes you feel anxious, tense, or overwhelmed, leading you to avoid the hard thing altogether. Psychological barriers to doing hard things. The brain's biological wiring is only part of the story. There are also psychological barriers that prevent us from embracing hard things. Here are a few of the most common mental blocks. Fear of failure. Many people avoid hard things because they're afraid of failing. The thought of trying something difficult and not succeeding triggers feelings of inadequacy and shame. Procrastination. The brain loves to procrastinate because it allows you to delay discomfort. When you put off a challenging task, your brain experiences a temporary relief, which reinforces the habit of procrastination. Perfectionism. Some people avoid hard things because they believe they must do them perfectly. This mindset creates unnecessary pressure, making it easier to avoid the task altogether. Lack of self-discipline. Without self-discipline, it's hard to push through the initial discomfort of a challenge. Self-discipline is a skill that must be developed over time, but many people struggle to cultivate it. Case studies. Overcoming mental resistance. One of the most inspiring examples of overcoming mental resistance is the story of David Goggins, a former Navy SEAL and ultramarathon runner. Goggins faced unimaginable challenges throughout his life: poverty, obesity, and a difficult upbringing. But instead of allowing these challenges to defeat him, he developed what he calls the calloused mind. Goggins trained his mind to crave discomfort, seeking out hard things because he knew they would make him stronger. Today, Goggins is known for pushing his body and mind to the limit, completing grueling races and challenges that most people would never even attempt. His story is a powerful reminder that mental resistance is not permanent. With the right mindset, anyone can train their brain to embrace hard things and push through discomfort. Spiritual perspective on overcoming mental barriers. From a spiritual standpoint, overcoming mental resistance is not just about rewiring the brain, it's about strengthening the spirit. Just as the body must be trained to endure physical challenges, the spirit must be trained to endure spiritual and emotional challenges. The Bible speaks often about the power of endurance and perseverance. In Hebrews 12 verse 11 we read, "No discipline seems pleasant at the time, but painful. Later on, however, it produces a harvest of righteousness and peace for those who have been trained by it." This verse reminds us that discipline and hardship are not meant to be easy, but they are necessary for growth. Spiritual revelation. The mind as a battlefield. Let's dive deeper into the spiritual side of this journey. Our minds are not just physical organs. They are spiritual battlefields. The Bible often describes the struggle between our flesh, the part of us that seeks comfort, and our spirit, the part that yearns for growth and alignment with God. Biblical perspective on hardships. Throughout Scripture, we see that challenges and hardships are often used by God to shape and refine His people. In James 1 verses 2 to 4, we are encouraged to consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. This is a radical concept, that we should find joy in our trials because they are evidence of God's work in us. When we face hard things, it's easy to feel like we're being punished or abandoned. But in reality, these challenges are invitations to grow. God uses adversity to strengthen our faith, build our character, and prepare us for greater things. Jesus and mental fortitude. If we want to understand how to train our minds to crave hard things, we need look no further than Jesus. Throughout His ministry, Jesus faced countless challenges: rejection, persecution, and ultimately the cross. Yet He never wavered in His mission. Jesus demonstrated incredible mental fortitude, embracing hard things with grace and determination. One of the most powerful moments of mental strength in Jesus' life is found in the Garden of Gethsemane. Knowing that He was about to be arrested and crucified, Jesus prayed fervently, asking if there was any way for the cup to pass from Him. But despite His anguish, He concluded, "Not my will, but yours be done." Luke 22 verse 42. Jesus' example teaches us that true mental strength is not about avoiding discomfort but embracing it with a sense of purpose. When we align our will with God's will, we find the strength to endure even the hardest challenges. Practical steps to rewire your brain to crave hard things. 3,000 words. Now that we've explored the science behind why our brains resist challenges and how this aligns with spiritual teachings, it's time to delve into the practical side of things. How exactly can we begin to rewire our brains so that we start to crave hard things? This section will give you the tools, backed by both neuroscience and spiritual principles, to transform your mindset. You'll discover how to reframe your relationship with discomfort and challenges, and learn practical strategies to overcome resistance and build mental resilience. Step 1. Embrace discomfort with gratitude. One of the first steps in rewiring your brain to crave hard things is to change how you perceive discomfort. Typically, we view discomfort as a negative experience, something to avoid. But what if you could train your mind to see discomfort as a gift? Every time you encounter something difficult, you're presented with an opportunity for growth. Whether it's a tough workout, a challenging conversation, or a difficult task at work, discomfort is a sign that you're stepping out of your comfort zone. It's a signal that you're on the verge of growth. From a spiritual perspective, gratitude is a powerful tool. In 1 Thessalonians 5 verse 18, we're instructed to give thanks in all circumstances, for this is God's will for you in Christ Jesus. This doesn't just apply to the good things in life. It applies to challenges and hardships as well. By cultivating gratitude for the difficult moments, you can shift your perspective and begin to see hard things as opportunities for spiritual growth. Actionable practice. Start a gratitude journal for challenges. One practical way to embrace discomfort is to start a gratitude journal specifically focused on hard things. Each day, write down 1 or 2 challenges you faced and express gratitude for them. Reflect on how those challenges are helping you grow, both mentally and spiritually. This simple practice can have a profound impact on how your brain perceives discomfort. Over time, you'll begin to associate hard things with growth, and your brain will start to crave the sense of accomplishment and fulfillment that comes from overcoming challenges. Step 2. Break down big challenges into small, manageable steps. One of the reasons we resist hard things is because we often see them as too big or overwhelming. The brain is quick to respond with feelings of anxiety and stress when faced with a daunting task. But research shows that breaking big challenges down into smaller, more manageable steps can make them seem less intimidating. This concept is supported by neuroscience. When you complete a small task, your brain releases dopamine, the feel-good neurotransmitter. This creates a sense of accomplishment and motivates you to keep going. By breaking big challenges into bite-sized pieces, you can hack your brain's reward system and build momentum. Actionable practice. The 2-minute rule. A practical way to break down challenges is to use the 2-minute rule. This rule states that if a task seems too overwhelming, commit to working on it for just 2 minutes. Once you start, you'll often find that it's easier to keep going. For example, if you're struggling to start a difficult project, set a timer for 2 minutes and focus solely on getting started. This small action can help you overcome the initial resistance and build the momentum needed to continue. This principle can be applied to many areas of life, whether it's starting a workout, tackling a big assignment, or engaging in a tough conversation. Once you start, the brain's natural resistance to hard things begins to diminish. Step 3. Practice visualization to train your brain for success. Another powerful tool for rewiring your brain to crave hard things is visualization. Visualization is the practice of mentally rehearsing a task or challenge before you actually do it. Studies show that when you visualize yourself successfully completing a difficult task, your brain activates the same neural pathways as if you were actually doing the task. This technique is used by top athletes, performers, and successful individuals to build confidence and mental resilience. By visualizing yourself overcoming challenges and experiencing the positive outcomes that come from doing hard things, you can train your brain to associate difficulty with success. Actionable practice. Daily visualization ritual. To incorporate visualization into your daily routine, set aside a few minutes each morning to visualize yourself successfully overcoming the challenges you'll face that day. Close your eyes, take a few deep breaths, and mentally walk through each challenge. See yourself handling the situation with confidence, grace, and resilience. Imagine the feeling of accomplishment and fulfillment you'll experience when you complete the task. This mental rehearsal can help you build the confidence and motivation needed to tackle hard things head-on. From a spiritual perspective, visualization can also be used as a tool for prayer and meditation. In Philippians 4 verse 8, we are encouraged to focus our minds on whatever is true, noble, right, pure, lovely, and admirable. By visualizing success and aligning your thoughts with God's promises, you can build both mental and spiritual strength. Strengthen your self-discipline through habit building. Self-discipline is the key to doing hard things consistently. Without it, motivation will wane, and resistance will creep back in. The good news is that self-discipline can be developed through habit building. Research shows that habits are formed when behaviors are repeated consistently over time. Each time you engage in a behavior, your brain forms neural pathways that make it easier to repeat the behavior in the future. The more you practice self-discipline in small ways, the easier it becomes to tackle bigger challenges. Actionable practice. Start small with daily habits. To build self-discipline, start with small daily habits that are easy to maintain. For example, if your goal is to build the discipline to exercise regularly, start with just 10 minutes of exercise each day. As you build consistency, gradually increase the intensity and duration. The key is to focus on consistency over intensity. Even small actions, when repeated consistently, can lead to significant changes over time. By building small habits, you're training your brain to embrace discipline and develop the resilience needed to tackle bigger challenges. In Proverbs 6 verses 6-8, we are reminded of the value of discipline and diligence. Go to the ant, you sluggard. Consider its ways and be wise. It has no commander, no overseer or ruler, yet it stores its provisions in summer and gathers its food at harvest. Just like the ant, we must cultivate the discipline to work consistently, even in small ways, to prepare for greater challenges ahead. Step 5. Surround yourself with a supportive environment. Your environment plays a significant role in shaping your mindset and habits. If you're constantly surrounded by people who avoid challenges or discourage growth, it becomes much harder to rewire your brain to crave hard things. On the other hand, if you surround yourself with people who are committed to growth and self-improvement, you'll find it easier to stay motivated and push through difficult tasks. This is known as the law of association. You become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Actionable practice. Create a growth-oriented environment. One practical way to build a supportive environment is to seek out accountability partners or mentors who share your commitment to growth. These individuals can provide encouragement, guidance, and accountability as you work to overcome challenges. In addition, consider limiting your exposure to negative influences, whether it's social media, television, or people who discourage growth. Instead, fill your environment with positive influences that inspire and motivate you to embrace hard things. This might include reading personal development books, listening to motivational podcasts, or attending workshops that challenge you to grow. From a spiritual perspective, the Bible speaks about the importance of surrounding ourselves with wise and uplifting influences. In Proverbs 13 verse 20, we read, "Walk with the wise and become wise, for a companion of fools suffers harm." By surrounding yourself with individuals who uplift and challenge you, you can strengthen your commitment to doing hard things. Step 6. Embrace failure as a stepping stone to growth. Failure is inevitable when you're doing hard things. But instead of seeing failure as a reason to give up, it's important to reframe it as a stepping stone to growth. Every failure is an opportunity to learn, grow, and improve. In fact, research shows that people who embrace failure as part of the learning process are more likely to succeed in the long run. When you view failure as feedback rather than a reflection of your worth, you're able to approach challenges with a growth mindset. Actionable practice. Reframe failure as feedback. The next time you encounter failure, take a moment to reflect on what you can learn from the experience. Ask yourself, what went wrong? What could I do differently next time? By treating failure as a learning opportunity, you'll build the resilience needed to keep going, even when things get tough. Spiritually, failure can be seen as a refining process. In Proverbs 24 verse 16, we are reminded, "For though the righteous fall 7 times, they rise again, but the wicked stumble when calamity strikes." The key is not to avoid failure, but to keep rising and learning from each fall. Step 7. Rely on faith to push through resistance. Lastly, when it comes to doing hard things, faith plays a critical role. There will be times when your strength alone isn't enough to push through. In those moments, you must rely on your faith in God to give you the strength to persevere. In Philippians 4 verse 13, we're reminded, "I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me." This is more than just a motivational phrase. It's a spiritual truth. When we lean on God's strength, we are empowered to face even the hardest challenges. Faith also provides a deeper sense of purpose. When you believe that the hard things you're doing are part of God's plan for your life, you're more likely to persevere through the difficulties. Actionable practice. Develop a daily prayer habit. One practical way to rely on faith is to develop a daily prayer habit. Each morning, spend time in prayer, asking God for the strength and wisdom to face the challenges of the day. As you go through your day, remind yourself that you are not alone. God is with you, guiding and empowering you. Conclusion. The transformation begins. Training your brain to crave hard things is not an overnight process. It requires consistency, faith, and a willingness to embrace discomfort. But by applying the strategies outlined in this guide, embracing discomfort, breaking down challenges, visualizing success, building habits, surrounding yourself with positive influences, reframing failure, and relying on faith, you can transform your mindset and unlock a new level of resilience and mental strength. Remember, the key to growth lies in the challenges you face. The more you embrace hard things, the more you'll discover your true potential, both mentally and spiritually. With time and practice, you'll not only crave hard things, you'll thrive in them, becoming stronger, wiser, and more aligned with God's purpose for your life. Kindly subscribe, like, and comment.